Okay, so obviously the stat does do something. I'm lying to you a little bit, but stick with me here, because Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that caught me off guard. I paid no attention to it before release, and even less after, what with all the bugs and the other things that people didn't like. But like how I normally end up playing video games these days, a person I respect gave a recommendation, Doc, the creator of Adios, calling it a masterpiece. That's pretty high praise coming from him, so I tried it, and yeah, it's pretty good. Alright, it's a bit more complicated than that. There are problems for sure. The main story is at odds with a lot of the side quests, and the side quests are at odds with the premise of the main story. It fails trans people in pretty much every way, like there's only one trans character tucked away in a side quest. And this is before I asked, an actual trans person on their thoughts. Fellow video creator Aronok recommended this video made by Sophie from Mars, which takes a much deeper dive, from about how the character creator, well, good for video games, lets non-binary people down with the way that V's voice is tied to their pronouns, to the overarching relationship between Johnny and V, where the pretty obvious now that I think about it topic of gender dysphoria is inconsistently dealt with at best of times, and at the worst of times just doesn't deal with it at all. The video also tackles other issues with the game, such as the game's orientalism and wishy-washy politics. I'll link it below. Finally, there is so much crime in this game, okay, right? One of these points on a map is a place where a gang is hanging out, and V can just walk up and straight up murder everyone there, and yeah, this game isn't anti-cop. I don't know where that came from. You get paid by the police for doing this? It's probably one of the 3 good ways of making money in this game. You can kill criminals in a back alley, right? And then in the next alley over, there is more crime. The fact is, Cyberpunk 2077 breaks the channel name a little bit by presenting a video game that I don't think is bad, though if you did think it was bad, I would completely understand. And also, if you want to say that it's good, you need to put a huge asterisk next to it. Even from a pure game perspective, it might not be your thing. If you're looking for a GTA Cyberpunk, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking for a Ubisoft-style box checkathon, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking for an open-world game at all, really, you're going to be disappointed. It takes a very Mafia 2 approach in having the beautifully realized world of Night City serve as a place where the things happen, rather than a playground for the player to get lost in. It does a lot of weird and different things. There's a big focus on characters as opposed to anything world-shattering. There isn't much to actually do in this world. It's a game that's fully supported by its side and main quests. So I guess it makes sense in a way that one of the game's most interesting parts is something that I only noticed until I was about halfway through. Let me explain. Cyberpunk 2077 is an RPG. It has all of the RPG things. There are stats, there are perks, there are guns that are better than other guns. You can do quests for people and you can choose what your character looks like. So my character is a cyberpunk version of Spike Spiegel, a cool, calm and collected gun-toting cowgirl. I put stats in pistols and cool to reflect this. But while I was playing the game, I noticed something weird. My dialogue options weren't doing anything. Like stat checks in RPGs for dialogue, like when you need 25 points in the explosive stat to convince Easy Pete to give you his dynamite. Yeah, the dialogue options for the cool stat in Cyberpunk 2077, the stat that I assumed was going to give my character that trademark Spiegel charm, was providing no benefit whatsoever. I once used this stat to ask for a discount and got told no. This felt like taking a peek behind the curtain, like how you found out that your decisions in The Walking Dead don't really mean much, or how XCom's hit chances aren't actually the number you see, they're a little higher, or even how the Dragon Age setting is literally called the Dragon Age setting. It's Thetis. I was really upset when I found this out. What the developers have done is basically put the speech stat in the bin. They've decided not to do it. The speech stat can't influence the outcome of quests or give you discounts if it doesn't exist, and that has pretty far-reaching consequences. Sure, we could talk about how CD Projekt Red no longer have to spend the budget on accounting for an extra dimension of outcomes, but that's not all. Not having speech in Cyberpunk 2077 means 2 things, right? And these things are really cool. 1, you don't have to put any points in the speech stat because there isn't one. Cool is actually about stealth and critical hits instead of speech. This means that every point you put in any stat actually does something that's fun and exciting. You get to throw knives or hack things or whatever. 2, not having the speech stat is actually really good. Playing Cyberpunk 2077 has made me realize just how much speech sucks in a game like this, a game like Fallout New Vegas or The Outer Worlds, because what does speech in these games actually do? Well, I'll tell you what they do. They let you get more money at certain points, and you can also skip entire sections of the video game that you paid money for. Instead of having to go through all of that in Cyberpunk 2077, you have to wait for it, actually pay attention to the conversation and pick the responses that you think is the best. It's no longer about just looking for the cool icon next to each option. You can pick whatever you want. Honestly, even the other stat options that actually kind of do things don't really do that much either. This is interesting. Is it just me? I think it's interesting. A choice that a developer made out of, and I'm speculating here, economic necessity, turning out to be, dare I say, better than if they just went the traditional route of making cool the speech stat. Okay, what did we learn today? Number one, maybe play Cyberpunk 2077 if you like games that are about cool characters and somewhat cool RPG mechanics and a cool city. Night City is actually probably the best part about the game. It's great. Number two, developers should do things that may seem counterintuitive at first, but actually flip whatever it is they're working on its head and make a better video game as a result. That's it. That's the video. Conclusions are for cowards. I'm out. Goodbye. Actually, hang on. Conclusions aren't for cowards, or they were until I changed a few things with the video. So, thank you to Aronok for talking to me about the trans parts of the script. It's much appreciated. Aronok is currently working on a video about queer relativity, where Cyberpunk 2077 does indeed feature. It's probably not out yet, but I'll link it below when it does come out. And if you're watching this like a few weeks later, it probably is already out. Also, thanks to Zolty Boy for the thumbnail. Yeah, that's right. I'm an actual YouTuber now. I commissioned a thumbnail. How exciting. All right. Okay. Goodbye for real.